Have you ever looked at the news, at the history books filled with wars and conflicts, and thought to yourself, are we just naturally violent? It's a heavy question, right? Beneath all our art, our science, our laws, are we just animals wired for aggression, constantly struggling for survival? It's a popular idea, this image of our ancestors as brutal cavemen, constantly fighting over resources. But is that the whole story? Or have we been telling ourselves a tale that's more fiction than fact? Today, we're going to dive deep into our past, into our biology, and into our societies to uncover the truth. Are humans born to be violent, or is it something we learn? Stick around because the answer might just change the way you see everyone, including yourself. Let's start by looking at the argument for our supposedly violent nature. Proponents often point to our closest living relatives, chimpanzees. Chimps, especially males, can be incredibly aggressive. They engage in territorial disputes, form raiding parties, and sometimes fight to the death. The logic goes, if they do it, and we share about 99% of our DNA with them, then that aggression must be baked into our genetic code, a remnant of our shared ancestry. It's a compelling argument. This idea, known as the demonic males hypothesis, suggests that violence is a key evolutionary strategy that has been passed down to us. It paints a picture of human history where the most aggressive individuals and groups were the most successful, ensuring their violent genes were passed on to the next generation. But here's where it gets really interesting. We have another close relative, the bonobo. Bonobos share just as much DNA with us as chimpanzees do, but their society is the complete opposite. They are famously peaceful, matriarchal, and known for resolving conflicts with affection rather than aggression. They prefer to make love, not war. So, if we're using our primate cousins as a model, which one should we look to? The aggressive chimp or the peaceful bonobo? The existence of bonobos alone suggests that violence isn't a guaranteed, pre-programmed part of our primate heritage. It shows that there's another path, another way of being that's just as natural. This forces us to look beyond a simple genetic explanation and consider other factors. So, let's turn to the archaeological record. What do the bones of our ancestors tell us? For a long time, the prevailing image was one of constant brutal conflict. We'd find a skull with a fracture and immediately assume it was from a battle. But modern forensic anthropology is revealing a more nuanced story. Many of these injuries, when analyzed closely, are more consistent with accidents like falling from a tree or a rock than with organized violence. Of course, there is evidence of violence. We have found skeletons with spear points embedded in them. But it's not as widespread as you might think. For the vast majority of our time on this planet as hunter-gatherers, evidence for large-scale warfare is incredibly scarce. It seems our ancestors were too busy cooperating to survive, to spend all their time fighting each other. Think about it. Early humans lived in small, mobile groups. Survival depended not on dominating others, but on working together. Hunting a mammoth, gathering enough food, raising children, all of these activities required immense cooperation. An individual who was constantly aggressive and disruptive would have been a liability to the group. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies support this. They often have sophisticated social mechanisms to prevent any one person from becoming too dominant or aggressive. Sharing is a core value, and conflict is actively avoided or resolved through social pressure and discussion. This suggests that our fundamental social wiring might actually be geared towards cooperation and empathy, not violence. These were the skills that truly helped us thrive. So, where did the idea of widespread, organized violence, what we call war, come from? The evidence points to a major shift that happened around 10,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution. When we started farming, everything changed. For the first time, people settled down in one place. They had land, stored food, and permanent homes. But suddenly, there was something concrete to defend and something to covet. Population density increased, leading to competition over resources like fertile land and water. Social hierarchies began to form, creating power imbalances. It's at this point in the archaeological record that we start to see the first real evidence of fortifications. Mass graves, and specialized weapons designed for fighting other humans. War, it seems, wasn't an ancient instinct, but a social invention, a tragic side effect of civilization itself. Now, let's talk about the brain. Are there violent centers in our brains, just waiting to be activated? The reality is far more complex. The brain regions involved in aggression, like the amygdala, are the same ones involved in fear and anxiety. They are part of our threat response system. But we also have a highly developed prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, empathy, and complex decision-making. This is our brain's CEO, and it has the power to regulate those more primitive, reactive impulses. The fact that we can feel empathy, understand another's perspective, and choose a non-violent response is just as much a part of our biology as the capacity for aggression. Our brains give us the capacity for both, but culture and personal choice are what ultimately steer the ship. Think about the countless examples of human altruism and cooperation we see every day. People rushing to help strangers in a crisis, donating to charity, volunteering their time to make the world a better place. These acts aren't exceptions to the rule. They are a fundamental part of who we are. Psychologist Steven Pinker, in his book The Better Angels of Our Nature, argues convincingly that, despite the headlines, violence has actually been in a long-term decline for centuries. The rise of strong governments, the expansion of trade, increased literacy, and a greater emphasis on reason and empathy have all contributed to making the world a safer, less violent place than ever before in human history. We've been actively using our intelligence and our capacity for cooperation to build systems that discourage violence. So, are humans naturally violent? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. We certainly have the biological capacity for violence, a leftover tool from our evolutionary past meant for survival in a dangerous world. It's a switch that can be flipped, often by fear, scarcity, or social pressure. But we are not slaves to that switch. We also have a powerful, equally natural capacity for empathy, cooperation, and reason. Our history shows that we are not inherently one thing or the other. We are a species of incredible adaptability, shaped profoundly by our environment and our culture. The story of humanity isn't a story of inescapable violence. It's a story of a constant choice between our worst impulses and our better angels. What this all means is that violence isn't our destiny. It's a product of our circumstances. By understanding its roots in inequality, fear, and the struggle for resources, we can actively work to create a world where our cooperative and empathetic nature has more room to flourish. We can build societies that promote justice, reduce poverty, and teach conflict resolution. We have the tools, both within our brains and in our collective social structures, to continue the trend towards a more peaceful world. The choice, as it has always been, is ours to make. We are the authors of our own story. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into human nature. I hope it's given you a new perspective. What do you think? Are we naturally violent or naturally peaceful? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to explore more big questions with me, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.